What's up, everybody? This is Sancho West with my boy, Mr. Santi Zap, and we are the CheckPoint Amigos. And this is a reboot, kind of like a fresh start, Santi. It's episode 1, my friend, a completely new chapter in the CheckPoint Amigos, and I cannot wait to begin this chapter with you, my friend.
Buddy, I'm so excited. We've been working on this project for some time now, keeping it under wraps. Really excited to be part of this journey, part of this growth that we're going to be seeing here for the foreseeable future. Dude, let's get things going. I'm so excited to be doing this with you.
I can't believe this is happening. I agree. I'm completely floored that it is happening. I mean, considering that we barely met, I want to say 2-3 months ago, and then now we're doing a for real podcast. That's kind of a wild thing to say. That's kind of a big commitment, man.
It is. We became Facebook official very quickly. We moved in on each other very fast.
It was a tweet. I saw you're like, you want to do a video game podcast? I was like, I've been wanting to get back into the video game podcast game, but y'all, this is going to be something special. I really do believe that. And I am excited to build this with you, Santi, because I really feel that you're one of the only few people who understands what we're trying to do. And we are definitely going to be a community-based type podcast. I mean, Santi, you kind of said something while we were getting ready to the people of the CheckPoint Amigos.
Yeah, one of the things that we want to absolutely make clear is that, you know, we're not a bunch of chumps starting, the 1 millionth gaming podcast that you've seen. Like, we are professional content creators. You might be meeting me for the first time. I'm from the world of professional wrestling, but I am a professional content creator. Sancho is a professional content creator. We are in this for the long haul, and we understand that for the foreseeable future, there's going to be growth. There's going to be a growing pains.
Absolutely.
As we try to figure out the identity of what this podcast maybe becomes bigger than just a simple podcast. But what I want to make sure that I hit home is that if you are watching this first episode, like, you are in on the ground floor, your questions, your feedback, anything that you have to say about our dynamic, what the podcast sounds like, what it looks like, what we deliver will help shape the identity of this show for the long haul. So congratulations, you bought the stock cheap, and it's gonna go to the moon.
To the moon. Diamond hands, y'all. Diamond hands. And already we had community feedback. We revealed our logo, which was the older CheckPoint Amigos logo. And I did not know CP was an issue. I did not know that, but here I am. I learn something new every day, Santi.
Buddy, I literally didn't see it coming until my entire Twitter feed was just like, bruh, you need to change it from CP. It means something entirely different.
I didn't know. I'm an innocent boy over here. I mean, I run a family channel over here. But also, just to let you know, like, audio, things of that sort, we're always going to iron that out. And at the same time, video quality, if you guys and gals out there love video, then we'll put more into the video. If y'all really like audio, then we'll put more into audio. No doubt we're going to be all over the, socials in terms of TikTok, YouTube Shorts, all those kinds of things. You could find us with hot takes and whatnot. But that's going to be our thing. To be clear, there's a lot of journalistic podcasts out there for video games. We're simply going to be one of an offshoot that you can enjoy, have some laughs, be very creative with the topics we have. We will talk news and things of that sort, but in terms of, we're just going to be a vibe. I feel something really good. We're going to try something different, and I think that's a good thing, Santi, that we're going to be a little bit different.
For sure. We'll find our... we're going to fit nicely eventually, like a nice warm sock on your foot. Okay. Yeah. All right. And we're going to become your favorite sock. Sancho, help me out here. I don't know where I'm going with this analogy.
We're going to be that delicious dish that you look forward to after a night out.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Yeah, but of course, like, we're also going to be topical. We're going to be talking about the things that you're going to want a gaming podcast to talk about. We're going to give you those opinions. While, of course, also, like Sancho said, creating a different type of podcast that is easy to come back to even 2 years from now.
Bingo. And with that, I have a goal. I love goals, and I think you out there love goals as well. I'm going to spring this on you. If we hit 50,000 subs, when we do, we're going to do, this is piggybacking off your idea, Santi, we're going to do The Rock Movie Slam. Thoughts? Movie Slam?
I like the name. I like where it's coming from. For those that don't know what he's talking about, I made a TikTok story not too long ago asking people like, what would you be down for me to watch every single Dwayne The Rock Johnson movie that he's ever been in?
I love it.
And and Sancho jumped in. He's like, dude,
let's do it.
Yeah, we got it. It's a terrible but great idea.
It's a terrible but great idea. And of course, that's an offshoot of what Kind of Funny does with In Review. So shout out to the boys and the crew at Kind of Funny. We're going to definitely do our own spin on it, of course. And I just love the idea of anything that we come to movie along. It could be another tentpole of the Checkpoint Amigos, but Movie Slam. Because, we're both wrestling fans, and we might, most likely you're listening, you would be a wrestling fan as well. So I think Movie Slam, there's somebody out there that has it a little bit, but Movie Slam, I think, is something that it just sounds right. It just sounds
No, it's
good.
ours now.
It's ours now. We're taking it over.
If you had it, it's not yours anymore. It's ours.
Come at us. But gently, please. I mean, we don't have that much money. You can have it if you come at us.
We're broke.
Take it back.
We used it all redesigning the logo.
I did. That took a while to change the P to the A. All right, Santi, this is going to be our first episode 1, like you mentioned here. Hey, a lot of people don't know us as gamers. You might be stumbling upon us. What are you up to, and what are you playing lately, Santi?
For sure. I mean, let me give you like the very quick spark notes of Santi as a gamer.
Pitch.
Yeah, the quick elevator pitch. My parents owned an arcade throughout the 90s. So
you're so lucky, dude.
Oh, dude, it was literally the coolest thing ever.
Lucky, dude.
It was one of those things that I did not appreciate enough as a kid, but looking back,
sounds like
oh my God, this is so cool. So like I've been around video games literally my entire life. I mean, as long as I can remember being able to breathe is when I was able to get my hands on an SNES controller. By the way, typically I say SNES, but while on the internet, I'm going to go ahead and keep it family friendly and say SNES so that we don't start any wars or anything. If you're curious, my favorite video game franchise is Metal Gear Solid. I can quote the entirety of Metal Gear Solid 1 from beginning to end. We can put that to the test one day. D, Colonel, what's a Russian gunship doing here? Either way, at some point we'll get there. But what have I been playing lately? Sancho, I've been playing the greatest battle royale on the planet.
Wait. All right. I've been watching your streams. I've been like digesting Santi. So this is new to me, Santi. What would be the thing?
It is Tetris 99, the greatest battle royale ever made, and I don't understand why it's still only stuck on the Nintendo Switch. This game is actually still a masterpiece. It's so good. It is like the one game that I can pick up at any moment and say, I'm gonna play a game, and then I end up like 2 hours trying to get myself a W, because that I dare say is the hardest battle royale to get a W in.
I would have to agree. I tried that. I didn't get it. Are you a T-spinner?
I can be if put in the position, but my natural default is not to T-spin. I'm not good enough to be a T-spinner, like by identity.
Oh, okay. I respect that. So are you like, let me build up a block and then send the big boy, the big liner down there? Is that what you do?
Yeah, man. I just go ahead and send that big line and destroy all the blocks.
The big hoagie.
Yeah, I guess I'm more of a traditional Tetris player, but I'm very, very fast. Like I put myself like non-professional Tetris players, like if we take those out of the equation, I put myself in the top 1% of humans. When it comes to Tetris, I like my chances. If you put me up against a random bloke on the street, you're getting your ass kicked by the Mr. Santi's app.
Dude, I would honestly think you're probably only less than 1% of the world plays Tetris 99. You're like, you think about it. I mean, no one really plays it. I mean, why did they shove? Look, hey, here's my thing. Quick rant, sidebar. Why does Nintendo take away awesome things? I thought Mario 35 was cool. I mean, I don't know why they took it off, and of course it's probably the 35th anniversary, but Tetris 99 has ruined. Pac-Man, I heard, was pretty fun to play. But I can't. It's gonna happen. By the way, Santi, every time you say
I know it's gonna happen. It's natural. But yeah, like that's why I want it off the Switch. I kind of alluded that earlier because the Mario 35 fiasco has created a sort of PTSD with me where like I almost don't want to fall in love with the Nintendo online games because they've created the precedent that they're willing to just remove it even if it's incredibly popular. Now, right now, Tetris is in a little bit of a renaissance, Sancho. Not sure if you know this, but that Tetris movie that was recently released.
I haven't seen it.
It's very, very good, but it's recently gotten given Tetris a big upsurge. Whether it's Tetris Effect,
I love Tetris Effect.
Tetris Effect is fantastic. Tetris 99 has seen that Tetris movie rub, if we want to use another wrestling term. So now, the world of Tetris is on the up and coming.
Okay, I agree with you on that. I mean, actually, you bring up an interesting point that we'll talk about in topic 2, which is your topic, in regards to video games being pulled off of online stores. It's something interesting to put a pin in. What I've been up to in regards, just to give you the overlay of me, I love multiplayer games. An interesting podcasting that we wanted to talk about earlier is I love multiplayer so much, Santi, that I rob myself of a lot of single player experiences, because as a content creator, I love multiplayers. I love covering them. I love making videos from it, but I missed out on so much of the PlayStation 4 generation. I missed up so much of the PlayStation 5 generation currently. And so I definitely want to use this CheckPoint Amigo podcast as an opportunity to get back. I used to be, as a kid, used to play a lot of arcades. I feel like I grew up in an arcade as much as I wish I did, unlike some people who are ungrateful. But no, I played a lot of SOCOM 2. I played a lot of Mario Kart 64. Those were my games. Those were my jams. Currently, what I've been playing is, I don't know if you know this, Santi, but this leads right into topic 1. I mean, you gotta hit the double jeopardy here, the double dare. We are hitting into my topic, which is Only Up. Is the only thing I've been playing. For those who don't know, Only Up is a phenomenon that is currently swept across TikTok Lives. Now it's going into Twitch. A lot of your popular favorite streamers and content creators have been playing it, but it's tended known, Santi, as a rage game. But for me, what I like about Only Up compared to other games is that it's a platformer at its core, and I love platforming. There's nothing like a platformer, and like begging it back to the Mario days. Only Up, in general, deserves to be a game of the year discussion. Like, I really do believe that. I don't think people are ready to talk about, we got Elden Ring, Zelda.
Sure.
We have all these other big hitters, but I think Only Up deserves your attention. Thoughts?
Yeah.
Am I wild to think about that?
Well, I want to put a question to you, and I think this will lead to a bigger conversation. When we had in the early pandemic days, when we had the Among Us craze, the Among Us craze, right? Like, it was the thing. Everyone was playing Among Us. People that weren't gamers were playing Among Us. I specifically remember getting together on Zoom to play with my non-gaming friends Among Us, because it became this part of the pandemic zeitgeist, right? This is how you now all of a sudden in the new age were able to socialize with your friends. Would you have had at that time Among Us in your game of the year contention?
I believe so. I mean, considering that it did launch a lot of careers as well. Sure. I look at gaming differently, and like I mentioned, I think as a content creator, it's a double-edged sword. And as someone who covers video games and plays video games for content, the reason why I feel it's double-edged is because your audience tends to dictate what you play. And Among Us is one of those things that it took over. Everyone wanted to watch it. Everybody wanted to play it. And the careers that it started, it should be considered game of the year. I know people love to rate game of the year based on artistic value and things of that sort, but I believe impact should be a factor in it. And one of the names that I remember is Valkyrae. Valkyrae, she exploded because of that, because of Among Us. Hafu as well. There was nothing like a Hafu lobby. I remember watching that. Is another content creator on Twitch. But because I believe the Only Up impact, and but I could, hey Santi, if you want me to talk about the artistic value of Only Up, which is available on Steam, by the way, there's a story there. I know you look at it on the surface and you see people raging and falling from all random props and objects, but there's a story there, Santi. There's some deep thoughts in there. And when I was playing that game for the first time and beating it, you have some instant like philosophy going through your mind. You're wondering about yourself, because that's what the beauty of video games does, is that it takes you out of yourself and puts you in a different scenario so you could ask questions about oneself.
For sure. And I think, earlier you mentioned it as a rage game.
Yes.
But I think I think at its core, it truly is a rage game. But Sometimes I get into a trance of watching somebody play it, and it stops feeling like a rage game, and it
Yes.
starts feeling like a journey and a flower.
Yes.
Weirdly enough, it starts feeling like, okay, like I'm kind of this like out of body experience where I'm just kind of vibing with like the flow, the jumps on the on the beds, seeing the changing landscape, going from an ice area to this like space place to like a beautiful garden. I, as a viewer of Only Up, because I haven't had the opportunity to play it yet, I've watched a ton of it though. I've watched a ton of Only Up, which kind of serves as to like, look, this has a impact beyond just grabbing the sticks and playing the darn thing. But when I watch it, like I said, I've kind of fallen to this trance where I'm no longer in it to see the streamer fail. I just want to see this guy or gal go only up. So it's weird because I love rage games.
Yeah.
And like the well-made rage games, like I love the Cupheads, I love the Dark Souls, but I seen almost no similarity between those games that I just listed and Only Up. I see just more of a parallel between something like Flower and Journey.
Okay, yeah, I totally see that. I mean, the only thing, the difference is because Getting Over It is the one with the guy in the chamber pot. With
yeah.
See, that one, you have to overcome the mechanic of the sledgehammer, and this one's just straight platforming. Like, it's something that's been in my blood forever, and I completely understand and know how to platform, and I think that's what I like about it. The other factor about it is someone who's executing the inputs, you're kind of like performing a tightrope act. You're high stakes, there's a lot of drama, and it's a stripped down version of that. You understand, hey, this person needs to go up. That's all you need to understand. And there is the excitement that you're talking about. But the story is really weird because I understood what that content creator or the creator of Only Up went through in their life. Like, I'm seeing, the struggles that they had in their life. I'm seeing what they like, what games they like, what their interests, what their favorite food is. They, what they find interesting beyond pop culture. I really started to absorb all these things. And then, like I said, you get into life questions, right? You're like, okay, this is what life is. Even though this move is insignificant and this jump looks simple, it could trip you up. And all of a sudden you could go all the way back down. But what do? You keep going. And so it's what life is. You got to keep going forward. And I kid you not, there's times I'm sitting there talking to my chat. I'm like, yeah, chat, you just got to keep going, moving up. If you fall down, it's okay. You never know where your journey's gonna go, and here I am, and this is just like a stupid like $15 game, and here I am having these thoughts. But one thing I wanted to point out to the second point of it, why it could be game of the year, is that it literally spawned this huge renaissance in Fortnite creative. And I know Fortnite, people think it's for kids and whatnot, but Fortnite creative is this whole new thing. It's an Unreal editor, for those of you that don't know, and because of the popularity of Only Up, Santi, someone took Fortnite's engine and made an Only Up map in Fortnite. And the impact of that is over 100,000 people played this game in Fortnite, which is free to play. And that at one time, only 10,000 people played Only Up. So 10,000 to 100,000 people playing this style of Only Up. And it's just so interesting to see how that has leverage into this big phenomenon that is slowly creeping and it's going to keep going. It's created a whole new genre, I think, in video games, but I just don't think people are going to respect it because it's going to be kind of like, it's just a rage game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're fully on the same wavelength on me believing that it's game of the year. But if we were to do different categories,
Indie
Sancho, not even. Maybe indie game of the year. I just don't want to like pull the trigger when there's still so much of the year lleft. But maybe something like biggest impact. I can't think of a game that would have a bigger impact than this. And what's wild too is that the impact of this game started with one domino from a single content creator named Ludwig. For those that know the world of content creation, you likely know Ludwig. He was the first one to really discover this game, play it on stream, and then from there it was like this wildfire of everybody wanting to play Only Up for the clips, for the speed runs, for the vibes. Like there's just different ways to play Only Up, which caters to different types of viewers. Because I don't love watching raging streamers. I don't know. I just like the Zen aspect of Only Up. So it's a really neat story in that way, where a content creator was able to really like set light to a forest, and really it just, hey, I'm Canadian, you know, forest fires still cut deep here.
Hey, I'm from California, bro. I mean, it's the same thing.
You know what it's like.
CACA.
But it's so cool to see almost an entire genre of video games spawn in front of us.
Yep.
Due to the random discovery from one content creator who apparently only found this because of negative reviews on Steam from Chinese players, where this game was predominantly the most popular.
Question: when do we get a Mario version of Only Up? When does Nintendo dip his white gloves into this pot?
That's a good question. I mean, you can
Mario
you can
64 mechanics, dude.
I was just gonna say.
What I'm saying.
I was funny enough that you mentioned that. I was just gonna say, isn't that just Mario 64? Half of the levels are going up in some capacity, right? But yeah, I mean, it's kind of ripe for the taking.
It is.
It just really depends. You know, like if we look at earlier popularization of certain genres, like I'm looking at obviously like the big one being battle royales. It wasn't, hey, the one game became super popular, then everyone was making battle royales. One person made a battle royale game, then another company made one, and then another company made one. And then once it was recognized as this is a good formula to monetize and make money, then that's when the entire landscape of gaming and developers started focusing on creating battle royales. I don't know if Nintendo has it in them to be a trailblazer in helping create a new genre.
Well, I mean, the one thing I would disagree with you there is that I think Fortnite kind of light speeded that progress.
100%.
Because
100%.
You know, you talked about a map creator. They literally made a different version of Only Up, and after that, there's like 6 or 5 different like sequels of Fortnite Only Up from the creative. Community.
Yeah, the dirt bike one.
I love the dirt bike one. It's like a Psych Bite or Trackmania or whatever. When you know, one of those games that is really awesome to play at. But you know, I really do believe, just to put a pin in this, it's like, am I wild to think do I really think Only Up's going to be Elden Ring and Zelda and all that? Not I'm sorry. It's not going to join Elden Ring as Game of the Year. It's not going to beat Zelda's. It's not going to beat the Spider-Man 2s. It's not going to beat any of the games that have been dominating. I mean, if you think about it as a cultural impact, yes, Tears of the Kingdom has a bigger cultural impact. I've seen so many different different vehicles from all that Tears of the Kingdom that people are making. So yes, it is I'm just saying, you got to give Only Up its flowers, and if CheckPoint Amigos is going to give Only Up its flowers, I'll be the first one to throw the flower at it.
I mean, I'm not throwing a flower. I just don't think that it's a Game of the Year flower.
I'm sheltered, okay? I've been in this content creating bubble that I want to burst. All right, I've been playing Final Fantasy 16. That game's pretty dope. I like it. I really do. It has a lot of great cinematic music and things of that sort. But the call of content, man.
Dude, stop. Are you telling me right now that you have Only Up above Final Fantasy 16? I want you to lay down the gauntlet right now. I don't want you to back out of this. Make the call, Sancho. Make the call.
This is where we might lose people, Santi. I mean...
We have no one. It's episode 1. We can afford to lose nothing. I just need you to make the call right now.
No, I don't think Final Fantasy is below Only Up. You like how I did that? I don't think it's.
Wow.
I don't think
it's. What a politician answer.
No, I can't give that a fair shake because I've only played a little bit of Final Fantasy. It's some Final Fantasy, you know, at a high level for me is I've avoided for the longest time because I never really was a turn-based type of RPG type guy. Me as a gamer, Santi, again, I suck at inventory. I suck at menus. The more complicated it is, the more I just tune out. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy the story. And Final Fantasy 16 strips all that, and that's what I like about it the most.
I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you on the inventory thing. By the way, well, that can be a different conversation for another day, because the bane of my existence is the prevalence of open world games. That can be a different conversation for a different day.
I think the older you get, the more open worlds you just don't like.
Dude, I just can't do them. I can't do them. Like if I can just say a quick blurb about that, and we'll get back on track. People are like, well, there's so much beef, there's so much meat in there for you, and you can tell your own story. It's like, dude, I am creatively dumb. I don't want to tell my own story. I want the story to be told.
I got it.
Yeah. I want the story to be told for me. Like when I was forced basically by my community to play Red Dead Redemption 2, which became one of my favorite games of all time.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, but I'm playing this like a linear single player game. I am going from main mission to main mission for main mission. That's it. I'm not hunting the 1,000 different types of animals in different pelts. I'm not going to go fishing. I'm not going dating. I'm not gambling. I'm just doing the story, and playing it that way, I was able to fall in love with Red Dead Redemption 2. But again, different little side.
That's a whole other pod. That's a whole other pod.
Dude, we can go into that. Shall we move on?
Yes. Santi.
For sure.
What you got for me?
Yes. Yeah. So the next topic of the show is we're going to be talking about the preservation of video games and the legacy of classic video games that are no longer as easily accessible as games are today. You can turn on your iPhone and basically have access to just about any video game that you want to purchase right then and there. Even if it's not a game for the iPhone, you can log on to the Xbox store and purchase it from there. There is infinite ways to purchase and play games nowadays. The topic today are discussing those games that no longer have that avenue to be discoverable and purchasable. So we had an article that was making the rounds around the world of video games the other week, claiming that almost 90% of classic games are, quote, critically endangered. And a couple of things that I'll mention here. What does a classic game mean is an important distinction that we need to make, because this might be a little gut punch to everybody that's listening, but they consider a classic game to be anything before 2010. Before 2010 is when online stores really weren't the most viable way to purchase a game. Most people still prefer to buy physical copies of games. Most developers, a lot of the times, completely ignore digital stores back then. Trust me, I've tried to play 50 Cent Blood on the Sand recently.
Oh my God.
You need to find a physical copy of it. It doesn't exist on any store. So I've been living this. It seems like you want to jump in here.
I have to jump in, dude, because like I said, I barely know you. In general,
sure,
we're jumping in, but 50 Cent Blood in the Sand is one of the greatest games of all time.
I know.
I am so shocked that there's someone else out there in the world that loves 50 Cent Blood in the Sand. The combat, the third person perspective, the executions in that game, the soundtrack.
My mother effing skull.
Oh my. Oh, okay, continue. I'm happy. I'm happy I'm doing this podcast with you. Continue.
Yeah. So really, I wanted to have a conversation about where is the line for ethical piracy is one of the things that I want to discuss. Like, at what point do you, the family-friendly Sancho West that would never pirate, you would never sail the seven seas and become a dirty, disgusting pirate. When is it okay as a gamer, when accessibility to games becomes borderline near impossible? When does it become ethical to be able to actually pirate the game? The other question is this an overreaction of 90% of classic games being critically endangered, and that we need to create some sort of bunker with all of these physical games? Because I dare say that it's not an overreaction, because recently, with the Wii U and the Wii stores closing, the virtual consoles, there were numerous games that were exclusively available in those stores that overnight, poof, disappeared. Literally no way to play those games exists. There are many games that died with those virtual consoles, that died with those online stores. The Vita is going to be dying within the next year, I believe. It was supposed to die last year.
It was dead already.
Yeah. Hey, the Vita, it means life, okay? It still has life, man. It's a beautiful console. But the Vita store is going to be closing down soon. The PlayStation 3 store is going to be closing down soon. And it leaves a lot of games in no man's land. Luckily for me, right, one of those games that's in no man's land has always been Metal Gear Solid 4, which is one. It's like my biggest guilty pleasure. I think it's a terrible video game, but it's an amazing Metal Gear game. We can discuss that at some point because we can dig into that. But, you know, there's quasi ways to get a hold of these games, like online streaming, for example, streaming from PS5, streaming PS3 games. It sucks. It's a terrible way to be able to consume those games. And it's those terrible experiences and lack of accessibility that make me say, yo, ho, ho, sailing the seven seas and become a pirate.
I think you just want to be a pirate in general. You'll find any
me matey.
No, I think this goes beyond video games too. I mean, you made all valid points, but we're seeing this in movies more so than anything. I cannot tell you how many times I purchased something digitally and then the rights are lost by the said streaming service, and I no longer have a physical copy to that, or I have to track down something that I bought and I don't know where it is. You know, there is a plus and negative side to physical copies. I mean, one, they take up so much space. You cannot believe how many DVDs and Blu-rays I have. I used to work at Circuit City way back in the day, so man, I stockpiled a lot of DVDs. But when it comes to video games, I do believe that there is going to be what I like to say a crisis in it, because one, there's idiots like me who, and again, I'm saying I'm the idiot here. When I was a kid, I did not put any value in my old consoles and all my old games. I fell prey to the GameStops of the world, and I'm like, sure, I could turn in my PlayStation 3 for a PlayStation 4, and I regret every single decision that I made when it comes to, you know, trading in things, because I miss those consoles. I miss my PlayStation 2. I miss the Slim. I miss the fat PlayStation 3 I used to have. I still remember buying my PlayStation 3 for the first time. I recently got a Dreamcast again in third party, and I miss my Nintendo 64 that I grew up with. There's things like that that I feel that we are going to start missing, and I believe the main issue with digital media in general, Santi, is what ends up happening is you lose that connection of owning it, and it's just some picture on a computer screen or a TV screen, and you won't have that same connection of reverence for God of War Ragnarok unless you physically bought it. I think it to answer your question that you asked me a few bit ago, would I ever pirate a game? I will and will not confirm that I do have a Super Nintendo Classic that does have the option to own all the Super Nintendo games. But I think the reason why I would do it if I did was for my kids, because I think it's important for them to play the games that I grew up with and the games that I like. I'm talking about like offshoot random games that I remember going to Blockbuster on a Monday, and my parents only let me rent one game, and I'm like, well, I played all this other games. I would like to play Clay Fighter and see what Clay Fighter is all about. I want to play the McDonald Kid games, like games that don't exist anymore in the culture, like games that are not Mario, games that are not Metal Gear. King. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like some just like even Glover for the Nintendo 64. You're like, I remember playing that game. Those are the things that I feel that the issue more is like every company has a different way of doing it. Xbox, they're using Game Pass. You have access to all that, right? So you need an internet connection for that. Nintendo loves to double dip, triple dip. How many times you can buy Mario 64? I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7. Doesn't matter. You're always going to buy it no matter what. PlayStation, for some weird reason, they have a problem with their architecture from the PlayStation 3 era, and you can't find PlayStation 3 games that well, let alone make content from it, Santi. The HDCP, whatever that mess, you have to like strip it, and you have to get a certain kind of capture card. So even if you wanted to share it and preserve it and put it on YouTube, you can't. And at the same time, I feel another issue is a lot of these games, these generations are reliant on multiplayer online. So there's no local co-op, there's no local multiplayer. So even if you did, for some reason, let's say Fortnite, well, all of a sudden there's no more internet and you can't even play Fortnite. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of thing I feel that it's a bigger issue than beyond just the physical copies of not being available. I mean, you talked about Blood in the Sand. I mean, you could go to a local store and you might find it, but then like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, one of the greatest fighting games of all time, a copy of that, it's a couple $100. And like, geez, as much as I love that on the Dreamcast, I just don't never see myself buying it again. And we could go like this could literally be like a whole weekly thing when we talk about these classic games. I mean, preserving them, like you mentioned, in its state with games that have like even soundtracks. Crazy Taxi, when that game kept coming out again and again, there's no Offspring, which that game needs Offspring. It is not the same game without it. It's the same thing with TV shows when they bring back like I know Scrubs, for example. It's streaming live on Peacock right now, but it's not the same rights of the music when it originally aired. And I think that in itself is going to be the thing that we miss. Sure, Santi, you'll get your Metal Gear, but it may not be the same Metal Gear you played when you were a child.
Right. Sancho.
Yes.
Family computer, your personal computer. You ever download LimeWire?
Dude, there was nothing like those days. What, it's Kazaa, LimeWire,
yeah,
the bear, whatever. There was one where there's a bear. No, it's nothing worse of buying a game or downloading the music and then it's all corrupted. Dude, I got to the point where I wanted to try like Japanese games and you try to burn it onto a disc.
Oh, yeah. The ISO files.
Yeah,
I remember
ISO
all
files,
of that.
man.
I remember all of that. So the reason I ask this is because I've always been of the mind that the era of music piracy was not because people were cheap and didn't want to pay for music. It was a lack of accessibility.
That's a good point.
You look at today, people are willing to pay for services like Apple Music. They're willing to pay for services like Spotify. And even before those services became a thing, people were paying for their songs on iTunes. Like when it became accessible for you to be able to pay and say, I want to pay my hard-earned money to have access to these songs, people started paying. And I think we can look at a similar parallel with gaming as well. I am willing to give the Xbox Live Store $50 to replay and re-experience 50 Cent Blood on the Sand. Like seriously, I am willing to pay full price for 50 Cent Blood on the Sand. And when you make it impossible for me to be able to purchase content at reasonable prices, if we want to call it that, and now I have to look at the secondhand market and I'm seeing that 50 Cent Blood on the Sand is $150, then you're going to force me to go back to those LimeWire days and download and pirate content. And it's weird because it after a certain amount of time, it almost becomes like this this victimless crime, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I had no way to give the developer money. I had no way to give the publisher money. So what is the difference if they're gone? They don't exist. So what is stopping me from ethically being able to justify pirating this game, whether it's because I just want to hear 50 Cent yell, they took my motherfucking skull, or maybe I want to be deeper and say, hey, I'm just trying to preserve the legacy of 50 Cent Blood on the Sand. I have a very interesting number here, which I think is very, very eye-opening when it comes to the lack of accessibility to games. I said 2010, but PS2 games, PS3 games, GameCube games, those are a lot more accessible in some capacity. But let's go a little bit farther back, but not that much farther back. Let's look at the Game Boy. All right, the VGHF is saying that out of the 1,873 total games that were released on the Game Boy, only 25 are available for some sort of legal purchase. Wow. That is mind-boggling. All of those other games, the only way to access them is to find somebody at a garage sale willing to sell their kids memories because they don't know what they have, or you have to buy them incredibly expensive from a scalper, or again, you sail the 7 seas and pirate the darn thing. And that's where I look at those situations where it truly is inaccessible to play what I want to play. And if it's inaccessible for me to be able to pay for that thing, it means that there is no desire for that publisher to take my money, even though I'm willing to give it to them. And if that's the case, I'm sailing the seven seas and I'm going for that scurvy, baby. I'm becoming a pirate.
I think in your case, you're talking about you want to collect the things you like, but you can't. And where do you go? And I think that I feel it's unfair for big companies to say, well, yeah, this game does not deserve a re-release, even though you're like, dude, I actually love this game. This game is really cool. And I feel that a lot of games are in that weird limbo area where rights, the company is defunct, the publisher no longer exists. There is a weird contract dispute for bringing it back. Like, for example, Perfect Dark. I mean, that game was made by Nintendo, developed by Rare or whatever, published by Nintendo, made by Rare. And now you're there, and where can we get Perfect Dark? I mean, right now, Rare is owned by Xbox. So now you're seeing that there's another hurdle for Perfect Dark to be out there. And it's the same thing with GoldenEye for the longest time. It had that thing, and they had to get special permission from Rare to re-release GoldenEye 64. And they had to release it on Game Pass. I believe that was the kind of like the the shaking of the hands there to get that re-release. But these are just only the simple hurdles for the biggest games that we remember. And for the ones that you're talking about, you will never see the light of day. I can't even think of where to get a Game Gear game. I owned a Game Gear console, the handheld. This is one of my favorite things I remember, holding this big, fat thing that took like 8 AA batteries. The thing was so heavy that I thought it was the coolest thing ever, firing up and seeing Sonic run across the screen in full bright color.
Yeah.
Which is one of those things like I really do think that's what it's going to be missing. So for me, as a father gamer, my job is to foster my kids' growth as a gamer in a proper way. Because like what I did, Santi, was my daughter, I didn't get her a Switch. I easily could have. It's easily available, right? I got her an old school Game Boy Advance, like an old school one, the flippy flap one. So that way she can understand, like, hey, this is where video games come from. This is like, this Mario was a good Mario and it's on the Game Boy and you would love this Mario. So that way when she plays like Mario Odyssey and all those, and she understands where Mario came from. And so I think that is why I feel we should preserve, because I think games and mascots and the vibe of games are slowly going away in a weird direction. And I don't know, I haven't put my finger on it, and we'll probably figure it out during this Checkpoint Amigos in general. But I feel like video games is in a weird space. And I don't know if it's getting in a help me out here. What's the word I'm looking for? The space that I'm looking at is moving further away in terms of favor of the consumer. It's going more into like this strange online only all the time. Game Pass. I feel like if Nintendo, if the game company, and forgive me that I'm taking a while to hit this point, if it gets to the point of being a Netflix style, I think you're gonna have the same problem that Netflix is having with movies, and what we're having with the movie industry now with the strikes. That I feel like video games could head that way. And I think that's going to be a big problem in the future.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think if I had to make a distinction and summarize what you're saying,
please do. That's why you're here.
Yeah. Is that you're seeing almost like a stray away from the classic business model of gaming, which was to create a piece of software and entertainment that resonates with consumers. And rather than making a piece of entertainment, we are seeing companies focus on creating a business model. We are making this game and we are creating a business model of microtransactions, whether it's the FIFA points, whether it's, the Madden Ultimate Team packs, whether it's whatever it might be, right? Like there is the game's identity now is almost defined by what kind of business model it has and what sort of financial benefits it has for the developer and the publisher at large. Before it was so simple, right? You make a good game, you sell the game, that's your business model. Now they are willing to give the game away for free because they know that they aren't selling you the game. They are trying to monopolize your time. And by monopolizing your time, they can monopolize your wallet.
Man, that is exactly what I was trying to say. It kind of brings up this news story that we have where The Last of Us, Naughty Dog's Factions multiplayer game was kind of put on a stall because Bungie just said that their games as a service model wasn't going to last. So that's when you go, Naughty Dog, arguably one of the best developers in the world, could literally do whatever it wants, but for some reason is being told to slow down. Your proposal for this multiplayer is not good enough, considering that, in my opinion, the Last of Us multiplayer factions, which you probably heard if you're a fan of mine, I talk relentlessly about, is one of the best ones of all time, but it doesn't have any of the games as a service model at all. It's literally a cut and dry, old school arena third-person shooter that's stuck in early 2000s that still holds a strength over a lot of people. And for some reason, that was not good enough for today's multiplayer. And again, CheckPoint Amigos, folks, is going to be that. We are going to get into these type of conversations that are further beyond what we have here. So I guess to put in a bow on your topic, Santi. So you're a pirate. You're going to go ahead and be a pirate as much as you want. And you want 50 Cent Blood in the Sand. Just to let you know, a mint condition 9.5 Blood in the Sand sealed $10,000.
Oh my God. But here's the thing. I know we're wrapping up the topic here. If I buy 50 Cent Blood on the Sand, I am getting a complete game. It is the game
exactly
how the developer intended it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nowadays, I am buying a game for the right to download a 50 gigabyte patch on day one. So even this concept of buying physical to preserve the history of a game you can make the argument that even that doesn't work, because 20 years from now, when that patch is offline and not available, am I still going to get the proper experience of playing that game, even if I have it physical? I don't know. I don't think so.
Will your PlayStation console boot up if it's not connected to the internet? I mean, that's the thing that so many people... I mean, I was on that side of the fence, Santi, where I was like, I love digital. Why would you not get digital? I don't have a disc in my PlayStation 5. Why would you do that? You don't need that. But now, as things are popping up here, and we're seeing that the PlayStation 2, you can't get a majority of the library, I'm like, wait a minute. I can't tell you how happy I am that I have WrestleMania 2000 still. I don't even know where to begin to look for a SmackDown Bring On the Pain, you know? There's so many of those titles that they're going to get lost in the sauce when there's not going to be people like us who care about that game.
100%. That's why, I still keep it sealed in the dark so that I can preserve my copy of the Scorpion King, The Rise of the Acadian on the GameCube.
You do not have that game.
Okay, super quick.
Yeah.
It was my birthday.
Yeah.
And I picked the Scorpion King, The Rise of the Acadian over Super Smash Brothers Melee. I had one game to pick. And back then as a kid, we weren't wealthy. The game that you get is the game that is going to last you until next Christmas or until your birthday. And I picked the Scorpion King, The Rise of the Acadian. No regrets.
Did you do it because you're wrestling? You're like, dude, I love The Rock.
I was addicted to wrestling. I still am. Everything that I do online is professional wrestling. But even back then as a kid, I was like, it's got The Rock on the cover.
Oh,
it's got The Rock on the cover. I'm taking this.
Now I see the cover. Dude, that is a sick cover.
Dude, but that's the thing. A different conversation for another day. But the predatory tactics of movie tie-in games back in the 2000s.
Oh, we need to rank them. At some point.
Dude, but I think that was a perfect example of you got bamboozled as a kid.
You just stuck with it. You just go like,
doesn't matter. I replayed it like 17 times because it was the only game I had.
I want to see you play that through. We need that could be another goal. You and I go live. And I'll just sit there next to you. We'll watch you play the Scorpion King Rise of the Acadian, whatever that is. Oh, my goodness. All right, man. Well, hey, that is the first episode of the CheckPoint Amigos in the Bank. If you want to find us everywhere, you could definitely follow us at our personal socials. But please, we are pushing CheckPoint Amigos to the moon as much as possible. We have pretty much almost everywhere. We have on Twitter, CheckPoint Amigo. No S at the end because we can't, for some reason, Elon Musk just does not want us to be together. So no plural there. So it's CheckPoint Amigo. And I'm interested to see who's going to be the first 50 of the followers there, the foundation, so to speak, for this entire podcast. In terms of live, we don't know. we honestly, to be frank, we don't know if we're gonna have a live podcast for this. We definitely wanted to feel it out and see what our vibe was offline. But we have Twitch and we have it on Kick, so we don't know, and YouTube, things of that sort. So we'll figure it out as time goes on. And like Santi said, I think you said it best. We're going to figure it out together. Hopefully we get so good things. I feel this is a great start. And hey, Santi, what should we tell our audience? What kind of comments? You're pretty good at this. If they made it this far in the video, maybe, you know, what would you want to put in the comments down below?
I want you to tell me about your favorite movie tie-in game. And I don't want you to reference the fact that I told you to. This is how I'll know that you're a hardcore and you made it all the way to this point in the video or this point in the podcast. Just leave a comment about your favorite or least favorite movie tie-in game. That's it. That's all I want you to do. I already told you about my experience with the Scorpion King, The Rise of the Akkadian. I want to know about your experience playing Cars or playing Wall-E, the video game, or The Mummy Returns, whatever it might be. I want to know. I want to hear. I want to experience all of that with you.
All right. This is episode 1 of CheckPoint Amigos, and we are the pod for the gaming people.